chainz. And that's an inside joke for the people who really know me. For those of you who don't know me, I am Dave, a 10 plus year intellectual property attorney dealing with everything from copyrights, trademarks, trade secrets, as well as patents. And hey, look, I don't get a chance to talk a lot about patents, more so trademarks and copyrights. But we have a good one today from the patent side of things. You know, when we talk about patents, man, I like to pull up the patent application, go through at least that independent claim, show you guys how to read a claim and what's a good patent claim compared to a not so good patent claim, and hopefully you guys gain some additional insight on this thing. But before we do this, please hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm, as well as hit that subscribe button to be a part of the IP community. We got a lot going on, not just these current events. Like I said, this time around, it's a bike, a revolutionary bike from Specialized that has 2 chains. So we'll be talking about that one today. But we also have interviews that drop every Wednesday. That's kind of telling a story of somebody who invented a product, started a business, kind of talking about their journey. A lot of those products have been on Shark Tank. So we have one dropping this Wednesday. I forget one it is, but I do think it's a Shark Tank product, or it's a product that has been on a game show. So be on the lookout for that. I do a live show every Sunday at 7 o'clock Eastern time, kind of breaking down lawsuits in real time, and kind of give you guys my advice, my insight on that, or some information and some insight on that. So I'll do those as well. And then the Shark Tank reaction videos. It wasn't a Shark Tank episode last week. I think they have a Shark Tank one this week, if I'm not mistaken. So we'll be back at it, reviewing each of those Shark Tank pitches from an IP attorney's perspective, trying to gain additional insight on the business, as well as protecting that intellectual property, because this stuff is extremely important. So with that being said, I do want to at least kind of bring up the article just so you guys can see what we're talking about. Now, this is one other patent application that we are going to kind of talk about here a little bit more in detail shortly. But the name of this article, or at least the article, is the Specialized patent. Specialized is the name of the company. I think that's an interesting name. Specialized is the name of the company. Patent reveals demo 2-chain drivetrain layout. So again, look, I'm from back in the time period when you just had the trick bikes. You had the trick bikes. You just had one chain, and you put somebody, you got the pegs, you put somebody on a what's the name, and you rode them. Hey, you may even ghost rode the bike. We were driving one bike and you were kind of ghost riding another bike. I'm kind of from that era, late 90s, early 2000s with the bikes. It seems like these things are getting way more complicated, made way more complex, but apparently it's supposed to have a better functionality, or helps for kind of better performance of the bike, at least this particular bike with 2 chains that we'll get off into. So I did kind of at least want to bring up kind of an actual real picture of the bike. That was the reason for me showing it. So this is what the real picture of the bike looks like. You see these are not the pedals. The pedals are not on there, but you see the bike frame. I think this is the seat. This is the first sprocket where the main chain goes, but when we pull up the patent application, you will see the other chain kind of is going in this area that's hidden behind, I guess, this plate or this cover. So I think they have another real picture on here. At least I thought. Oh, here we go. So, man, shouts out to these guys. I would imagine that he's part of Specialized. You see it again, the bike, the frame, the pedal. This one has the pedal on there. See that kind of main chain as well. That second chain, or the secondary chain, is somewhere in here that we'll get off into as we kind of pull up here the patent application. So let me kind of pull up the patent application here really quick. Let me just kind of stop sharing that. Let's go to where's it at here? Okay, here we go. I'm trying to teach you guys something here today. So please hit that like button, as well as hit that subscribe button as we're kind of going through this thing. Let me kind of show my entire screen. Let's go. So this is what I have to the left is from the patent application. It just the patent application just published, I think maybe a week or so ago. So typically, for those of you who don't know, a patent application, it publishes 18 months or a year and a half after you file it. So when you file a non-provisional, you'll hear a lot of people talking about provisional patent applications, PPAs. Those are never examined, or they don't never get published. However, once you file or convert your PPA to a non-provisional, or file that non-provisional, that publishes for the world to see within 18 months of that filing date. So this one from Specialized on the dual bike chains just published a couple weeks ago. And typically claims, at least in the US, you're allowed 20 claims. Once you go over 20 claims, you have to start paying the USPTO some additional claim fees. And within those 20 claims, you are allowed 3 independent claims, or what I call a standalone claim. So you see claim one. Claim one typically is not only an independent claim, but it's typically your broadest independent claim. You can see as a standalone claim. So, for example, you see Claim 2, it says the drivetrain of claim 1. What's claim 3 says the drivetrain of claim 1. So it kind of depends from claim 1. Again, claim 1 is a standalone claim and does not depend on any other claim. In this one, even though you're allowed 3, they only have, I think, 2 independent claims. You have claim 1, as well as you have claim 17, which is a bicycle that includes obviously the wheels, frame, as well as the drivetrain. So that's no, nothing wrong with that, man. Nothing wrong with having 2 independent claims, although at least in the US you are allowed 3 independent claims. So we're going to go through claim 1. I'm going to teach you how to read a claim here today, man. So put on your thinking caps. Now to the right I have here is the figures from the patent application. So you see figure 1, figure 2, figure 3. I think this one only has like 8 figures or something like that. But we're pretty much going to kind of focus in on figures 2 and 3. But it's always good to get that high level. Typically your figure 1 is an environment view or the high level view of the actual bike. So you see the bike here, wheels 22, the rear wheel 22. I think the front wheel is what, 18. You see the frame 14. You see the main chain, which is 136. You see that main chain 136, and then the secondary chain is kind of more so shown in some those additional figures. I think figure 2 is maybe a close up. Again, the main chain still is 136. But let's go through this claim 1 here. So it's a drivetrain for a bicycle. The drivetrain comprising a spindle. So the spindle is actually 62. So you see 62 here. That reference number is pointing to this spindle here in the middle. So it's comprising a spindle, a chain that's forming a closed loop and having an inner periphery and an outer periphery. So again, the chain is 136 here. If you go up here, you see the chain 136 has a closed loop. It's kind of closed all the way around it. So the chain 136 has an inner periphery, which is the inside of the chain, and then the outer periphery was the outer side of the chain. And what is it? You have an idler. The last feature of claim 1 is the idler that's rotatable around the spindle. So in figure 2, you see the idler that's 138. That's around spindle 62. What else do they say about this idler? When the idler is engaged with the outer periphery of the chain, which kind of makes sense, right? So you see the chain, the outer periphery is kind of here, the bottom of the chain here. You see that idler 138. Those teeth of the idler is engaged in that chain. So that's essentially claim 1. Now this is a very broad claim. I will strongly imagine that this is going to get reduced as it goes through prosecution and it gets examined by the USPTO. But again, that's essentially claim 1, which is the broadest claim. If I think you go down here to, where was it at? The secondary chain. Kind of see, let me do a control F. Let me just do a chain. I'm going to just do a chain, 2 chains. Those who you know me, you'll get that joke. So, okay, here we go. Claim 11. So the drivetrain will claim 10 when the chain is a primary chain, but it says when the drivetrain also includes a secondary chain that's engaged with both the drive gear and the driven gear. So where is this secondary chain, David, that you was talking about? Here you go, figure 3. So you see the drive gear, which is 74. So you see the drive gear actually 74 is around not only the sprocket 62, but it's also around that idler 38, which you see the idler here. Then you have the drive gear that surrounds both of them, 74. And that drive gear is engaged with that secondary chain, which is you see the chain here, I think it's 80. You see 80 that goes to that secondary chain. I want to say this is the driven gear that is also kind of connected or engaged with that secondary chain. So there you go. You got the main chain, which is 136, and you have that secondary chain, which is 80 in figure 3. So again, this bike literally has 2 chains. So again, this is another one showing that kind of that drive gear and then a driven gear. This one doesn't. It has omitted the chain, that secondary chain, but the secondary chain essentially is around this driven gear, drive gear 74. So that's pretty much it. And then there's a close up of the even more close up of the drive gear. That's pretty much it, man. So hopefully you guys kind of were able to get something out of that as at least related to kind of the claims and how to read a claim and kind of match it up with the figures and just kind of understand it. Typically, it's pretty standard to have your first claim, especially when you're drafting that original application, to be as broad as possible. It's probably going to have to get kind of tweaked or have to add some features to it when you're kind of going through prosecution. But this is the bike, the revolutionary bike. Shout out Specialized. I'm going to have to reach out to them to try to get over the platform to talk a little bit more about the bike that has the first ever 2 chains. So let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Please hit that like button for the YouTube algorithm. Hit that subscribe button to be a part of the IP community. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this one. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.